Hello, welcome to the first ever episode of Local Nerd News. High five. For all of you that don't know me, I'm Nerd Dude.
And I'm Sabaguy, which you probably wouldn't know us because this is our first ever episode.
Woo!
Alright. What are we going to be talking about today?
So, I'm going to be reviewing on the new Marvel movie Ant-Man.
Oh, good choice.
So what are you going to do?
And I am going to be talking about how he might not be alone in the universe.
Oh, maybe we'll start off with that.
Alright. Okay, so I am holding in front of me a booklet which I've printed out some documents in of how NASA has discovered the first Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone of another star, which is essentially another Earth that we could possibly live in. I heard about this, I think it was on the 24th or 25th of July 2015, so I started researching about it. And from what I've read, it's 1,400 light years away. If you can hear any pages turning, that's just my booklet. So 1,400 light years away from our solar system. That is over 8 quadrillion miles, which we weren't able to convert into kilometers. The Kepler Space Telescope, I said it right this time, confirmed this planet to be habitable among 500 potential candidates. That is, or if all 500 were confirmed, if we ran out of resources, we could go to one of those planets, and we could potentially live on one. Do you have anything to say?
Yes.
Okay.
How many years do we have to travel?
Well, light years isn't actually time, it's distance.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know.
Probably a few years.
Yeah, well, at the moment we don't have enough technology to have enough fuel to get to those other planets. Don't waste fuel.
Yeah, and some guys actually invented an electronic cigarette. Look where our resources are going to.
Yeah. I don't know how we got from space to cigarettes, but let's keep going. This discovery of this new planet, which from what I'm reading is Kepler 186f. This is a significant step towards finding another planet like Earth, which is exactly what this planet is. Once again, if you can hear flipping of pages, that's just my booklet. Yeah, damn squeaky chair. Alright. In fact, this planet's star is 1.5 billion years older than our own. This will give scientists a rough idea about how our sun will eventually affect Earth. Now, me personally, I believe that there is other life in the universe and we're not alone. So, having this confirmed information that there is habitable zones and there are planets in them that are potentially habitable by creatures confirms my theory that we are not alone. I don't know what that was, but I'm just going to ignore it.
The Twilight Zone, dude.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Wait, did we stop recording? Yeah, we did. Let's hear it. Oh my god, we didn't stop recording.
My final fact on this, the planet that we can potentially live on if Earth's resources run out. The planet has a radius 60% larger than Earth, and it's expected to have a thick atmosphere and a significant amount of water. Imagine if Earth ran out of resources. This planet, potentially, is another way which we could survive. Now, that's enough about extraterrestrial planets. Do you want to talk about Ant-Man now?
Of course I would. Now, Ant-Man is a movie unlike others, but you probably heard of that before, but I truly mean it. Ant-Man explores the life of ex-criminal Scott Lang. Now, Scott Lang just got released from prison, but he's finding it hard not to keep out of it. As he was doing one burglar run. No.
That's as close as he's going to get. Keep going.
He's not a robber. He's a burglar.
Because he doesn't like violence.
Yeah. He breaks into Hank Pym's mansion.
Who is former Ant-Man.
And discovers that in his secret vault is the Ant-Man suit.
But he doesn't realize that until a lot later in the movie.
Yeah. Now, after discovering what the suit can do, Scott must partner up with Hank Pym and his daughter Hope Van Dyne in an adventure to stop Darren Cross from exploiting a serum that can shrink organic matter.
And also the Yellow Jacket military suit.
Yes. And you are in for the ride of your life because this movie is spot on. It is one of the best Marvel films I've seen in a long time.
And the one before that was probably Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Now, from what Nerd Dude has said, and because I've already seen the movie, it is a great movie. I reckon that it couldn't have been made a lot better because it was almost directly spot on. Now, I would have liked it a little better, because this is just the critic in me, if Hank Pym was actually Ant-Man.
Well, he sort of was Ant-Man.
Yeah, he was, but only during flashbacks. But I would have liked it if the first movie was based around Hank Pym being Ant-Man, and then the second movie being about Scott being Ant-Man. But that's just me. Now, even though this is our first episode of Local Nerd News, we organised an interview with someone that works at Comics R Us in Chapel Street, Windsor. His name was Matt, and the store is excellent. You should go check it out. Today we are here with Matt from Comics R Us, Chapel Street, Windsor.
How you doing?
We're good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
We've noticed that in the store you have all of the latest... Well, we noticed in your store you have all of the latest New 52, Marvel Now, and a bunch of other miscellaneous graphic novels, comic books, action figures. There's Futurama, Star Wars, as well as Batman and Spider-Man.
Yep.
With the New 52 and with Marvel Now, when they reboot into Convergence, and I still don't know the title of the new Marvel one, do you reckon that'll affect the store in any way?
Yeah, it's always a challenge when they do that because we have to order obviously several months before they print the comics, and people. I mean, it's a little bit better these days with the internet. Some people are onto it early, but a lot of people, until they see it in the flesh, they don't really want to make any commitment to it. So it's difficult from the point of view. What do you order? Like, how many do I order? You know, if we normally sell 50 Spider-Mans and they change Spider-Man, will 50 people still want to buy it? You don't know. So, yeah, it's always risky from a shop's perspective because we can't return it. Whatever we order, we keep. So if you order 100 and you sell 2, bad luck. You know, so what you order, you've got to be fairly, not necessarily conservative, but you've got to be cautious because if you multiply that out against hundreds of comics, you can be thousands and thousands of dollars out of pocket if they don't sell. So, you know, you've certainly got to be wary about what you order. And the turnaround to get more is at least 2 to 3 weeks. So if you sell out in a day, you know, it's 2 or 3 weeks per week. If you can get more, it's 2 or 3 weeks. And by then, people have moved on sometimes. So, you know, it's not always worth reordering because people don't care. You know, they're only worried about what's coming next week. And if it's here this week, great. Next week, I'm not interested. I'm interested in what's next week.
Yeah. All right. My next question was going to be how do you reckon the reboot of Marvel and DC will affect comic books, but I think you just answered that.
Look, I mean, in the history of Marvel and DC, I mean, DC's been around for 80-odd years. Marvel's been around for, 80 years as well, but the more famous Marvel for 50-odd years. You know, they've gone through ups and downs. They've changed things many times. You just got to go with the flow to a certain degree. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It does annoy me when they keep renumbering. I don't care if they change the storyline or the creators, but going back to number ones all the time, it's just a band-aid measure, trying to get extra sales, which only help you for the 1 month that number one's out. You know, next month is number 2, the month after you're number 3, so, you know, how's that helping you in the long run? How about just make better stories with better artists consistently? That's how you sell more comics, not just going back to number 1.
Yeah. Which, I know that when Marvel and DC reboot, they're going to have to show all the origins all over again. So like, with Batman, they're going to have his parents be murdered and him having the inspiration to become a bat. So
by being scratched by a bat.
They're going to have to change that again and tell it again. But even though I like reading Batman comic books, I don't really want to know Batman's origin over and over and over again.
No, I mean, look, that was a device they used to use more often because obviously, you know, in the age before DVDs and videos and the internet, you know, how would you get information on a character? So they had to put the origin in every so often because obviously new readers would come along who wouldn't necessarily understand where this character came from. And I mean, Batman started in 1939, so yeah, people that bought the early issues knew, But for everyone else, every year or two, they'd have to sort of recap it. Whereas these days, you can go on Wikipedia, get a full detail of his whole history, his origin, everything. So you can bring yourself up to speed quickly. So it's not as urgent these days to tell the origin over and over and over. That being said, obviously, whenever you've got a big new creative team on it, they always like to put their own spin on it or their own stamp on it. So, it does happen. And you don't mind, but it's like the movies. Spider-Man, they've now shown his origin twice in the 2 reboots.
Yeah.
It's boring. It's too long. I'd rather just see a brief recap, that's it, move on. I don't need to see a 45-minute origin.
And speaking of the Spider-Man movies beforehand, did you know that Hugh Jackman was meant to have a Wolverine cameo in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films?
No, didn't know.
Well, the only reason why he couldn't cameo in the Spider-Man films was because he lost his costume.
Really?
That was the only reason why he wasn't in the Spider-Man films.
Oh, okay.
They somehow lost his costume, even though it was meant to probably be at the studio, and it wasn't there.
But they're different studios. Spider-Man was Sony, Wolverine was with X-Men, which was Fox. So, yeah, that might be the story they give you, but it might have been behind the scenes going, nah, we're not helping you out. Because the big studios, I like the big comic companies, yeah, they're all in the same industry, but they don't necessarily like each other. And they're certainly always trying to get one up on each other. That's why they do these big events. DC are trying to get over Marvel, but then Marvel go, yeah, well, we're getting over you with Secret Wars. So, they're always trying to one-up each other, especially the 2 big companies, because they've got the most famous characters and the biggest amount of resources to produce comics and so on. They're both owned by major Hollywood studios. So Disney now owns Marvel, DC is owned by Warner Brothers and has been owned by Warner Brothers since the 70s. So DC's had a big, multinational media company behind them for years. And literally just at the moment, they're moving to LA. They've always been from New York. They're just moving to LA to become more enshrined with the Hollywood.
Well, I'm sort of like half-half with the New 52. Like the stories and the costumes. For instance, Martian Manhunter. And I like Shazam's new concept, but before reboots, into new costumes, do you have any favorite concepts from different characters?
As far as reboots go?
Yeah.
Not especially. I'm not a big fan of reboots. I'm more traditional. So I like, I'm a little bit older, so I grew up in the 70s. So I'm more partial to the characters that I remember as a kid. Batman and Spider-Man have always been probably my 2 favourite superheroes. I love Superman, the character and the whole sort of setup, but unfortunately the stories are always a bit lame. They just don't seem to do great stories for Superman. But the old TV shows and the original movies, they're really cool. So I've always loved Superman, but as far as comics go, Batman and Spider-Man would be more important to me. But I like stuff from probably the 70s for Batman and the 60s and 70s for Spider-Man. They were my favourite eras.
And I noticed that right here along this wall, which anyone listening to this won't be able to see because this isn't video, you have the TV show Arrow's action figures, and you have one from The Flash.
Yep.
Do you reckon that those TV shows and the new Supergirl one, do you reckon they'll be affected by the reboot of comic books?
No, I don't think so. The amount of people that read comics numbers in the thousands, the amount of people that watch TVs in the millions. So, and I mean all around the world. So, I mean, American comic books don't necessarily get into a lot of foreign countries, but the TV shows will, because they'll dub them in various languages, and the Middle East and Africa, and wherever. They don't necessarily sell comics there, but they'll show the show. And the show, the Flash, for example, is a great character, famous within comic circles, but the average person on the street wouldn't know Flash. But he'll gradually become more famous now that he's got a TV show. Yeah. Especially with the younger audience, they'll be a lot more able to that's the Flash. Iron Man's a good example. He's always been famous because he's one of the better Marvel characters. But the general public had no idea about Iron Man until the Robert Downey Jr. film came out, and now since the Avengers, Iron Man's one of Marvel's top line characters now. And deservedly so. He's always been a great character. But traditionally, it was really Spider-Man and the Hulk that were the famous characters, because Hulk had a TV show, Spider-Man had a cartoon and a movie sort of stuff back in the 70s. So Spider-Man was the most iconic for Marvel, and Hulk was probably second. But now you're getting, other characters coming in and being... Captain America's become really famous now, Iron Man particularly. These other characters are starting to find their own sort of... legend within the comic universe with outside people that don't read comics.
Well, earlier when we were talking about Iron Man, first of all, Iron Man has a lot of suits. Do you have a favorite Iron Man suit?
Absolutely, yep. So the one I like is the one from the early to mid-70s. And the problem is Iron Man, because he's technology based, it absolutely makes sense that he's constantly tinkering and updating his suit and it changes the look and that. But it's that classic red and gold one with the circle and the certain... His nickname's Shellhead, and he had that real sort of shell head. So the original costume was the big bulky grey one, which then became gold. Then he got into gold and red, but he had more of a pointed mask. And then the next mask is the more sort of classic one from the late 60s through to the late 70s. That's my favourite. But he's changed costumes so many times, you know, over the years now. Probably, like literally 40 or 50 times at least.
Which, in the Superior Spider-Man, the Superior Iron Man one, he's wearing his...
Symbiotic suit.
His symbiotic suit, which he, well, from what I've read, controls with his mind.
Oh, okay.
And, like...
Can control...
Yeah.
It can absorb energy.
Yeah, okay.
That's probably going to be one of my favourites.
Is it related in any way to the Venom suit? Because that was a symbiote as well. Is this a different... No.
Well, I think it's a different symbiote.
Yeah, okay.
I honestly haven't read them, but I just read about it online.
Yeah,
I think it's symbiotic liquid.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four, so that's Marvel's sort of first group of characters they created. He is a genius scientist, and I think he invented, I think it was him, or maybe it was Hank Pym, invented the unstable molecules. So that became like the fallback position. So all the suits for a lot of the heroes were made from these unstable molecules because they could take a lot of punishment. They wouldn't just tear like normal cloth. So, you know, it was made up garbage. But, you know, it's sort of cool that you had stuff made out of unstable molecules, whereas now they're moving towards, like you said, symbiotic and, you know, various other things.
Do you have another question?
I was thinking a lot of convergence for DC, and I read online that Superman is actually losing his powers. Like, he can't go into the Fortress of Solitude anymore, and he's losing his suit, and so he...
In Convergence itself, or in the regular series?
Well, I think in the regular series,
Yeah, okay.
it's...
Well, that would make more sense, because that's part of the problem with Superman. He's so powerful, it's hard to match him up against characters. So, I mean, you know, traditionally, the original Superman, he was fighting more like cops and robbers type of stuff. He'd fight villains and that. But, of course, you know, he can blow them away, literally, with his breath or his heat vision or whatever. So, you know, sometimes Superman's been so powerful, it gets to the point of ridiculous. I mean, the original movie, great movie, until he spins the Earth backwards and makes time go backwards. And to me, that's bogus. You know, Superman's not that strong. He's very strong, but he's not that strong he can spin the Earth backwards. And everyone would die, by the way.
So, if Superman did spin the world backwards or travel through time, but in the movie the world was spinning backwards, everyone will be flying around and, you know, dying.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of that moment, but apart from that, the movie's awesome. You know, that's still probably one of the top.
So, with the Superman movies, like, you said that you would rate them fairly highly.
The first two.
Yeah, the first two. And
first two are really one movie, you know, realistically. Just they split it into two.
Yeah, and while you were also talking about the first two Superman movies, or the first one in particular, you also mentioned the Avengers.
Yep.
Age of Ultron recently came out, and like I personally think the first one was better than Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I think it was too, but marginally. I still thought Age of Ultron was very good. You know, it had plenty of action, it didn't mess around. Just a few moments in it, like Ultron's lips moving all the time was a bit fun. He's a robot. You know, and there's a few things that I wasn't wrapped in, but overall it was good. I mean, and the best thing was, as soon as the credits roll, bang, they're into action. You know, the Avengers are pounding on Hydra in the forest. It was good. You know? And look, for your $20, you got your money's worth. It was lots of entertainment. It was over 2 hours long. You know, it was good fun.
Yeah, the third Avengers movie is meant to be split into two parts.
Yeah, so it's Infinity War Part 1 and 2, but I think essentially the first part will be Infinity Gauntlet, and then the second part will be Infinity War.
Yeah.
So Thanos and the Gauntlet, you know, after the Infinity Gems. I hope he already has some of them before the first movie, though, because otherwise you're going to spend that entire first movie trying to collect all the gems, and you'd rather you only needed like the last couple or something.
Yeah.
At least I would.
Yeah, that would make sense. I also noticed that, I'm not sure if you still have them, but a while ago you sold Avengers vs. X-Men comic books.
Yep.
I collected the entire series apart from the sub-series which just had individual fights. I still reckon that was a very good series.
Yeah, that was one of the best ones. So that one and Civil War have probably been the two best big stories of the last 10 years or so. Civil War might be slightly over
Yeah.
10 years, but roughly the last decade, they're probably the two finest moments that they've had in as far as trying to get a big story going.
Yeah. And with Civil War, they're making a movie about that. I reckon that they should make an Avengers vs. X-Men movie, because that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
if they got the rights back from
That's the
X-Men.
thing. The problem is X-Men rights are held by Fox, who also hold Wolverine, X-Men related characters, and the Fantastic Four, and they do not want to give them back. Sony and Spider-Man, apparently they've come with a deal now where Marvel will get Spider-Man back. He's going to be in Civil War, and then they're making another Spider-Man movie, and after that, the rumour is that Marvel actually get him back to Marvel Studios, which would be great. And to be honest, I'd love to see the Fantastic Four come back to Marvel Studios. X-Men, I can give a, I can take it or leave it, because I'd rather see them at Marvel Studios, but I'd rather see FF come back, because FF have got some other characters like Galactus, Silver Surfer that would be great to incorporate into the Marvel Universe stuff. The Marvel Studios universe.
Did you like the old cartoon Teen Titans series?
Just a major detour from movies.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, no, I look at most of them. I'm more of a fan of the old stuff, so I like cartoons from the 60s, early 70s. Stuff that I saw when I was a kid, I really like that, and I still watch all that stuff. The animation was great. It was very simple storytelling, but really heroic, straight down the line. It's basic, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Not too complicated.
Yeah.
The early 2000s had a Teen Titans animation. I saw all of that, I think, in a month or whatever, just because I hadn't seen it before and I just wanted to watch it. And I reckon that the ending of it was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, though I haven't seen the whole series, and I don't think I saw the ending. But it's horses for courses. It's part of it's what you grew up with as well. What you saw at a certain age, it influences you. It's like music you listen to. Everyone from different eras. You can't necessarily say, oh, that's average, or I prefer this. Yeah, everyone's got their own opinion, absolutely, but it doesn't mean you're right. It's just what you like, and everyone's entitled to like what they like. Yeah. I mean, look at comics. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of titles, but not everyone's going to buy the same one. Everyone has their own sort of interests, and some people just like to be different. So if it's popular, I don't want to know about it. I like this one. I like the one that's not popular. So there's that as well.
Which I have a feeling that's probably what's happening with The Flash, because that was mentioned earlier. How most people on the street probably won't know The Flash until the TV show gets a little bigger.
Well, at the moment, it's obviously it's on download, but it's been on Foxtel. Now, not everyone has Foxtel, but eventually it'll come out on DVD, and gradually more and more people will discover it. And we've certainly noticed that an upswing in interest in Flash, especially from younger kids. And Flash has always been popular, but he's more popular now.
And I've noticed that we've talked a lot about comic books and movies, and I'm not sure if we talked about action figures yet, but just what actually got you into the comic book industry?
Well, when I was a kid, I just always had an obsession with the cartoons and the comics. And when I grew up, it was the early to mid 70s. Had a black and white TV. You had no video recorder, so you were at the mercy of whatever they were showing, and it was black and white. Comics were colour. Well, at least the imported Marvel comics were colour, and DC. And you'd read those, and that was awesome because it's colour, and they're doing stuff that in the cartoons they could sort of replicate it, but they couldn't replicate it in real life. And so you were reading these amazing stories, and of course, in your imagination, it's a very powerful thing. You fill in all the gaps, and you develop part of the story yourself, not just what you see on the page. That's like disjointed bits of the story. So it was just a very exciting thing that I just kept interested in. And 40-something years later, I'm still interested.
Yeah.
Well, a few nights ago, I was watching a Big Bang Theory episode where the girls are actually arguing who is actually worthy to lift Thor's hammer and how to lift it. What would your explanation be on how the hammer chooses its...
Well, obviously, it's like a divine right type of thing. It somehow there's an inherent thing in it that it knows if you're a worthy person. Basically, it's ripped off from... I don't know if the legend's the same, but certainly with the comics, it's pretty much ripped off from Excalibur, the sword of King Arthur. That was in the stone, and it was there for many, many years, and people tried to remove it, no one, all the best people in the land, but Arthur came along, who wasn't even a famous, knight or anything. He was just, I think he was a servant of someone else, and he lifted it out. And so suddenly they realised this guy was destined to be king. This is the worthy recipient. So it's a bit like Thor. You know, he
Yeah.
was in the comics originally. Dr. Blake he's being pursued by alien invaders, and he goes into a cave and he finds a stick, like an old stick that he uses like a walking stick.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to get out of the cave, the other end, and there's a big rock in the way. So he uses the stick to lever the rock, and he can't quite do it. So he ends up hitting the stick down in anger, and of course that's what brings on the thunder and the hammer, and suddenly he's transformed into the almighty Thor, massive, muscly, you know, handsome, long blonde hair,
Yeah.
and you know he can lift the rock like easy and just smash with his hammer. So that was how Marvel sort of started up. It's a great story too, really cool.
But speaking of Thor's hammer, I heard that it weighed, I think, like 100,000 tons. This is just a crossover between DC and Marvel. But Superman, he can lift 230 quintillion tons. So do you reckon Superman would be able to lift Thor's hammer just by brute force?
But
or would he
but
be
I don't
worthy?
think it. You know, they might mention weights, but it's not. I don't think it's there's magic involved there. You know what I mean? It's not purely that it's heavy. There's some sort of aura stopping you from lifting it. You know, it's. I mean, the person that can lift it weighs nothing, or very little. You know, but basically you're not allowed to lift it. It's not the aura of whatever's stopping it. Mjolnir is not letting you lift it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's funny in that latest Avengers movie, Quicksilver, because he's running around, the hammer goes
Yeah.
flying past him, so he sees, oh, great, he grabs him, whoop! You know, he gets thrown backwards because, and obviously the Hulk in the previous Avengers gets hammered with it as well, because he thinks it's great, you know, bang, and he gets hammered with it. So,
and he tries to pick it up, because
Yeah.
like, he saw Thor pick it up and it was no problem. He's like, oh wait, nope, can't pick it up. Wait, nope, still can't pick it up. Mindless. Well, speaking of Hulk, and we were just talking about Superman and Thor's hammer. Do you reckon Superman would be able to defeat the Hulk, or would Hulk be able to defeat Superman?
look, people always ask these sort of questions, and what I tell them, who do you reckon's going to win this weekend? Port Adelaide or the Dallas Cowboys? They're both football teams, but it's not the same. You know, and obviously Marvel and DC, they're both imaginary worlds of heroes and characters, but they're on different levels and different, you know, they're just, it's all subjective. You know, people say, oh, who's better, Superman or Thor? I mean, even within DC over the years, they've had Flash and Superman race off multiple times. Who's faster?
Well, the Flash ends up winning.
Yeah, but you know, it's all subjective, and it really. There was a series in the late '90s called Marvel versus DC, or DC versus Marvel, because both companies were financially in the bad place, and they bereft of funds. They thought if they teamed up for a big crossover, it would help them out, and it did. I mean, it was popular, but it was such a cop out. So I think there was 5 major confrontations. DC won 2, Marvel won 2, and the 5th one was a draw. So it was just absolutely contrived, you know, from the get-go. But hey, people bought it. You know, it wasn't very good, but people did buy into it.
I think it's time for our final question, which is, what do you think, or who do you think, is the best superhero or superhero team in the modern age?
Superhero. Oh, look, I think Superman is the best superhero. He's the archetypal character. He's the one that created the word super, as far as using it with heroes go. I'm not saying he's the best character, but I mean, without Superman, I don't think any of these other characters would have happened.
Yeah.
They only happened. I mean, Batman was only created because Superman came out with such a big hit. The guys at DC said to Bob, well, it wasn't called DC at the time, but they said to Bob Kane, you know, come up with a character. So he came up with Batman. You know, and that was a totally different character again. You know, this movie, Superman, Batman, to me or Superman versus Batman, Superman could cut a fart and blow Batman away. So it's really silly. You know, like Batman is a man who's trained and he's fit and he's tough,
And he has
but
everything.
Superman has like a ridiculous amount of power. So saying it's Superman versus Batman is garbage.
Except Superman's weakness is a rock. And
Well, it's kryptonite.
so even though Batman's just a human, he has enough money to get all of his resources, including kryptonite, which I think in one of the issues, Superman gave to Batman if he had
It's
to
for
be stopped.
safekeeping. Okay.
If Superman had to be stopped, he gave kryptonite to Batman to stop him.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't that be any different in the movie?
Oh,
Batman
well,
could just stop
maybe
him.
it is, but you know, I'm just saying without, you know, if you take kryptonite out of the picture, it's you know, it just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. Speaking of kryptonite, the planet that Kal-El came from, the planet Krypton. Yeah, I know. I'm just making it sound a little weirder. The planet wasn't green, so why is kryptonite green?
I have no idea. It might have been the core because they were living on the planet. They weren't allergic to it. No worries. Thanks a lot. See you guys. they were living on the planet that weren't allergic to it. So maybe it was some sort of reaction when it exploded, or maybe it's like the core of Krypton. I'm not sure. I've never read into Superman that deeply, but
In the superpower.
Oh yeah. He's actually making me say this to you, but
Say it.
what superpower would you like to have?
fly. Yeah, it's always been fly. Yeah.
That's,
We just had this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
because particularly if you were the only person, if you could just fly, and I've actually had a lot of dreams over the years where I can fly, but not well. Like I'll be inside of a supermarket and I can hover like near the ceiling, but then eventually my power runs out, or I can fly a little bit and then come down. But it's been one of those obsession things. Yeah, it'd be awesome to be able to fly.
Yeah.
apparently most people choose fly.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah,
I
fly
choose-
would be that, 100%.
I choose speed.
Like the Flash.
Yeah, no, that would be cool too. But I think flying would be, mind you, super strength would be good. So you just pound on people that you dislike, with no regard for your personal safety.
But then again, you could also have invulnerability and like never die unless it was from old age.
Yeah, but you can fly away from that.
Uncle Matt.
Oh, thank you.
Almost Monday.
How'd you know it was my birthday? How old am I?
40 something.
Oh, 40 something? I'm only 30. What are you talking about? Oh, thanks, guys. You didn't have to do this. Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry.
That's alright.
Don't worry. All right, don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Most people would choose fly, said that he'd have speed. I'd probably have super intellect or teleportation.
Already have super intellect.
No. I don't have super intellect.
You're smarter than me in science.
You'd be
Well,
smarter than me in math.
obviously any power would be cool, but I just think flying would be great because you could, do heaps of things, and it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Save a lot of petrol.
Yeah, that's what they were just saying. Well, it's almost time to wrap up. So thank you for letting us interview you.
Yeah, cool, no problem, anytime.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Tune into local nerd news. Live long and prosper.
And to conclude this episode of the Local Nerd News, we will be having a top 10. This top 10 will be the top 10 superheroes that need movies.
Number 10.
The Birds of Prey. The Birds of Prey are a group of female superheroines that complete missions around the world. They were founded by Oracle and Black Canary, and were originally an extension of the Bat family.
Number 9. Red Hood. Now, Red Hood may be a little unusual because he's an anti-hero, but doesn't mean he should not get a movie as a hero. Red Hood was actually trained by Batman and was killed when he tried to save his mother by the Joker. He doesn't follow Batman's code of conduct and makes his own rules. And the cool part, he came back from the dead. Now, who wouldn't want to see a movie about a hero coming back from the dead as a villain?
Now that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Number 8.
One of my favourite comic books, The Red Lantern, or The Red Lantern Corps, they are fueled by rage and cannot remove the Red Lantern ring, because once the ring chooses them, their hearts explode, which causes them to vomit up red-hot blood, which will melt things like acid. They aren't very well known, but have made an appearance in Green Lantern, the animated TV show. Only one Red Lantern was originally able to make constructs, like the Green Lantern constructs, so the other Red Lanterns wanted to, and the only way to create constructs was to drink his blood. Now, doesn't that sound cool?
Yeah, that's not cool. But
Not like a vampire at all.
yeah, but how would that fit into a superhero film?
Well, they're technically not superheroes, but they would make a very good movie.
Maybe we'll do a top 10 supervillains that need a movie as well.
That can be on that list as well.
Number 7. Firestorm. Firestorm made a major appearance in the CW TV shows The Flash, and will be appearing in Legends of Tomorrow in 2016.
That looks like a good TV show.
Yeah, it is. Firestorm has the ability to change matter if he knows the chemical structure. He's actually 2 individual people that join to become one. One as the brain and one as the body. So it's basically 2 minds in one body.
If you go that far.
Yeah. And some people may not know this, but he's actually the most dangerous thing in the universe. For example, in Brightest Day, he accidentally destroyed the universe, but thankfully he reconstructed it. So that's cool.
He is pretty cool.
Yeah. Number 6.
Nova. He ties in with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, as he was mentioned in, well, the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He has superhuman capabilities, like nearly everybody on this list, and he is currently in possession of the Xandarian World Mind, which is a supercomputer, that allows him to have the knowledge of the entire history of Xandar, which I'm guessing is a planet.
Xandar is a planet.
Alright?
Number 5. Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Now, Hawkman and Hawkgirl are immortal and are constantly being reborn, but are subjected to a curse that eventually kills them, so they have to find each other and convince each other of who they are. Their suits are made of a rare alien metal called Nith metal, which gives them the ability to fly, and they fight crime through time. For example...
Rhyming not intentional.
Yeah, because they died in the Egyptian period as a king and a princess, but...
Or a pharaoh.
Yeah, or a pharaoh. And when they died, they come back in a different time period. So it would be nice to see in the movie them fighting through time, but as a backstory.
Yeah.
So cool. Number 4.
Sentry. He's from the Marvel Universe and is one of the most powerful telepaths on the planet. He became a superhuman because of a super serum formula. Doesn't sound like anyone we know. Captain America! And he can manipulate light.
Yes,
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, he actually killed some of Marvel's most powerful villains like Carnage and Ares.
Yeah.
Number 3. Moon Knight. Now, Moon Knight is an underestimated villain. Not villain, hero. Hero. Because of his capabilities. But as you can see, to be told, Moon Knight is nearly the Batman of the Marvel Universe because of his weapons and style of outfit. He is capable of defeating Taskmaster, whom has the ability to see his opponent's moves. Now, barely anyone can defeat Taskmaster, but Moon Knight certainly beat Taskmaster.
Fun fact, Deadpool also defeated Taskmaster.
Yeah. And during his first appearance in Werewolf by Night, number 37, I think? 37, 38? Somewhere around the 30s.
30-something.
Yeah, he began his career as a mercenary, and his first ever contract was to take down a werewolf, which is Jack Russell, which is very back.
Not the dog.
No, the dog, the werewolf from Werewolf by Night series. Number 2.
Namor, or the Submariner. He was actually one of the first superheroes of the Marvel Universe, and he was made in 1939. He is essentially the Aquaman of the Marvel Universe, as he is King of Atlantis. Except he can fly, because he has wings attached to his feet, or his shoes, I can't remember which one. Most people don't think Aquaman is pretty cool, but Namor certainly is.
Yes. Number 1. Nightwing. Now, Nightwing would make a compelling story, as he is the first Robin, Dick Grayson. Now, in the movie, it would be nice to see a backstory as Robin. Wouldn't that be cool, Cyber Guy?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, he was trained by Batman after his parents were murdered by mobster Tony Zuko. And he left to protect his own city, Bloodhaven, but occasionally returns to Gotham to assist Batman. But it would be nice to see Nightwing take on his own villains, make it his own story, and see how he is coping being a solo hero.
Yeah. Plus, not to mention, Nightwing is just awesome.
Yeah, he is, with his awesome...
Eskrima sticks, and
yes,
they're connecting to a staff.
If you want to request any top 10s for us to say, just go into the description below.
Or if you think that we missed any superheroes that should be on this list, let us know.
And that concludes today's episode of Local Nerd News, and we hope to see you again. And to see you soon. I'm Nerd Dude.
And I'm Cyber Guy. Live long and prosper.